Scaling your law firm doesn't have to be difficult. It's all about mastering a few key strategies, systems, and mindsets. Welcome to the Scalable Law Podcast, where we talk about how you can increase profit in your pocket and time in your calendar. My name is Carolee Fontanelli, and I have successfully scaled my firm so that it doesn't solely rely on me. Now I love teaching other law firm owners how to do the same. Let's transform your business starting now. Welcome to another episode of Scalable Law. I'm your host, Carolee Fontanelli, and it is awesome to have you tuning in today. No matter where you are, I hope that you're having a really great week, and I hope that business is going really well for you as we're heading really quickly to 2024. It is the time to start planning for the next year. It's time right now to get ahead of the curve and to start putting your marketing plan together for your law firm for 2024 and to start creating some really serious and amazing goals for 2024. This is exactly what we are going to be doing in the next couple of months in the Scalable Business Lounge. So if you would love to join us and be in there with us, hitting the ground running in 2024 in your law practice, getting all the tools and skills that you need to take your business to the next level, then now is the time to join. You can head over to scalablelaw.com and find out how you can do that. Jump on a call with me. I welcome you. I love having chats with lawyers from all over the world about their law firms or their pending law firms, their law firms that they're about to start. I love hearing about that as well and working out what we can do together to help you to achieve your goals. So today, let's get stuck into the podcast. We have a very special guest on the podcast with us today. She is one of our go-getter, absolute go-getter lawyers in the Scalable Business Lounge. She only started her firm a really short time ago, a couple of years ago, but is already doing amazing things, has a thriving team, and is really focused on creating a nationwide law firm, which is so amazing, very, very inspirational. I learned so much listening to Melissa talk, and it was a really great conversation. So I am looking forward to bringing you this podcast. And without further ado, let's get into the podcast and welcome Melissa Barlas to the podcast. How are you going, Melissa?
Really well. Thank you so much for having me on, Carolee.
Thank you for coming on. I particularly love your firm and wanted to talk to you because of a few different reasons. One of them is that you have niched your firm down really beautifully and you've really targeted that ideal client. So I'd love to talk to you about that. But before we get started, on that topic, I would love for you to tell the audience about yourself, where you were working previously or what your experience was as solicitor previously and what brought you to start your own firm. How did it all come about?
Really good question. So my name's Melissa Barlas, and yes, the conveyancing law firm that I own is called Conveyed. So it's a baby business, I like to call it. So it's only about 2 years old. But with a very big vision for the future. So before starting the law firm Conveyed, I was working in private practice for probably close to 10 years, very much in property law. At some point I did a bit of commercial construction law, but throughout that time it was just working in a few different law firms across that time. The last law firm that I was at was a generalist law firm in Melbourne CBD. And what I found, or what the trend I found was across my time, I just felt that I was suffering a lot of burnout as a lawyer. And as you work with different firms, you really start to notice what not to do.
Yes, definitely.
In a way, what not to do with running a law practice and dealing with your team and making sure everyone's happy. And for me, that's, mental health of the workplace through my own experiences is something that I've become really passionate about, and something that I always strive to ensure is, I always trying to ensure that my team is happy. So anyhow, I think it was early 2021, I sort of had an epiphany. I was like, look, I'm really stressed, I'm burnt out, not treated the way that I want to be. I know my service really well, and so now I'm going to go out on my own and take maybe a couple of months off, use that time to start up my accounts, create my company, and then from mid-2021 onwards, the business was born.
That's awesome.
And
so
we haven't stopped since.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So tell me, like with burnout, because I talk about burnout quite a lot, and I have a webinar around law firm owners burning out, because that can happen as well. But as an employed solicitor, what did burnout start looking like or feeling like for you?
Well, I started feeling it based on the number of files that I was doing. It wasn't just because of volume, but it was also at times with lack of training on certain things that I wasn't even used to doing. Like I remember a time where in the last firm that I was working at, I was thrown a file that required a NECO subdivision. Now, I hadn't done that before, but I didn't have the right support around me to be able to really do that effectively. So that was really quite stressful. And the feedback that I was getting was, if I would communicate that stress and let my superiors know, hey, I'm kind of struggling here, it would be like, you're not emotionally intelligent enough, or you're not resilient enough. And so that didn't really help from a mental health standpoint, and that was all contributing to that feeling of stress and burnout. And so there was that, and there was dealing with a lot of matters without real attention from my bosses at the time as to how I was feeling, or even working with me to address that. So
yeah. And so was that sort of looking also like long hours? Was it looking like dreading going to work? Was it looking like feeling like you were undervalued or underappreciated?
All of the above, I'd say.
Yeah,
absolutely. You've said that really nice and succinctly. So yeah, absolutely. I felt all of those emotions where my morale just wasn't there by the end of it. Because I did feel undervalued. Absolutely. Yeah. And we have to remember, as business owners, our team are the bread and butter of our business. You have to treat them really well. Yeah. Not as a task, but because you really want to, and they are so important to you and your business. They are, and I think I just didn't feel that coming my way.
And I think as well, where we can do better as employers is to recognise that, and I feel like there's a lot in law that we sort of throw away that, oh, no one can do it as good as I can, or that sort of stuff. And I think as an employer, we need to recognise that our team truly, honestly, I reckon 95% of the time you employ people who actually want to do really well. They want to be successful in every file that they are running, and they want to achieve. Lawyers are high achievers, and they want to achieve in their roles. So that if they're struggling, it's not because they're not wanting to achieve. It could be because, as you said, you were stressed because you were handed files you had no training on, for example, and it became overwhelming.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that sentiment completely. Yeah, and you're right, that lawyers do want to do well. And I think and this is just from my own experience being a business owner, if you trust your employees, if you give them a bit of trust, if you give them a bit of breathing space and just allow them to do what they know how to do, your return on investment will be so much greater. If you're sort of there micromanaging or being on top of them, walking down the hallway, seeing what people are doing, if you're taking that approach because you have that struggle of releasing control and you want to sort of make sure everything is okay, it's probably not going to be the best approach, because your team will feel that. They'll feel you watching over them.
Well, I think they feel claustrophobic, and that also leads to the burnout, right? Because you've got someone who's right up on your grill all the time, but they're not really assisting, and sometimes they're bottlenecking, but they're still micromanaging, and it can just.
And I kind of get it, because you don't want anything to go wrong, especially us lawyers. We like to be in control. We're trained to do the work. But you kind of have to tell yourself it's okay and just let them do it, and you'll find that they'll actually do a great job for you.
Yes, and with guidance, training and systems and processes in place, then you can micromanage without micromanaging.
Correct.
If you know what I mean. So, and that's kind of what we teach in the Scalable Business Lounge is how to start with setting up those systems. So I'm really interested. I always love to know how you went from being an employed solicitor at a senior level on a decent salary, working in Melbourne CBD, to then going, it's okay for me to drop all of that salary and take that big, massive risk to go out on your own. What did that look like and feel like? And for people out there who are starting to think about going out on their own, I've recently been chatting with different potential law firm owners for the future, and that's a real question that they have, is how do you make that leap? Do you take a loan out? Do you wing it? Do you how did that all kind of work for you?
Yeah. Good question. So look, it was scary when I went out on my own. You're delving into the unknown. It's that fear of the unknown. Never done it before, kind of in a way not sure where to start, and you're just almost hoping for the best that things are going to turn out, it's all going to be okay, because you lose that stability of income in comparison to working in private practice, and you're kind of starting right from the bottom. You've got to build your relationships, you've got to bring in the work, you're wearing all the hats.
Yes.
For a while, all the hats. Marketer,
all of them.
Operations manager, financial controller,
you're sending out cost agreements.
The list goes on and on. And so you're doing that and hoping that it's all going to sort of work out. At the same time, and I guess when you are starting out on your own, just don't stop learning. If there's any sort of little tip that I can give, don't stop learning. Be an absolute sponge. And, being on your Scalable Business Lounge, for example, is just one example of how I'm becoming a sponge, because I'm learning more and more things every day, being in that program and whatnot, in order to scale my business and grow it. So never stop learning when you're out on your own, because you're going to build connections with people and you're going to need to lean on them to help you learn how to grow your business if that's one of your goals. So I've had to do that in order to get my business kind of to where it is today in 2 years. But I can say though that there is that feeling of freedom in a sense, where you haven't got, if you're working, but you're working for yourself. You're working with the end goal of you reaping the rewards of the effort that you're putting in. So there's always that incentive for the hours that you're putting in. It does get to a point where you start to put in a lot of hours, and then that's when things like the Scalable Business Lounge becomes a really good, useful tool to teach you to sort of step out of that and start taking your time back to really work on the other areas that you need to in order to grow and scale your business, like marketing, like systemization of your processes, etc. So it's been a massive learning curve for sure. And as time has gone on and I'm learning more, I'm starting to develop a real sense of freedom, and it's just really comforting having that, I guess, work-life balance.
That's awesome.
And being able to dictate your day. I think that's really the best thing about it.
Awesome. So you've got a really great website. So was that one of the first things that you sort of set out to do? Get your company structure set up, get your website set up?
Yep. Website, was one of the first things, and it didn't always look like that. I've had my website looking like that probably for the last, I'd say, 8 months or something. But and if you haven't gone on, go on conveyed.com.au. It's a pretty little website.
It is. And what you'll see on the website, which I absolutely love, and you're doing so right, is you'll see that there's multiple calls to action at the top of the page, that you've got a really great video which gives people the feeling of know, like and trust on the front page. And it's definitely looking like, and we'll get to this, that it's niching towards a certain type of person, which I absolutely love, because I think niching is a key to success, or I believe niching is a key to success.
Niche and differentiate. I've always had that in my head. And for me, what I've grown to understand over time is people don't connect with companies. People connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
So personal branding is such an important aspect, in my view, when you are starting out on your own and really building a reputation and a level of credibility for yourself. If you don't have a personal brand, it's like you're in a way unrecognizable.
Yes.
Like you get lost amongst the crowd, and
yes,
and people don't remember you for something. But if you've got a really clear, and unfortunately, as solicitors, marketing is just not in our blood. That's just not something we know how to do at all. Again, we're day-to-day people. We're grinding it. We're in the files, and that's what we know how to do. But marketing is very foreign, and I felt that as well when I started out. But you got to do it, but I've learned that personal branding is really something that your customers, especially your target market that you're going for, will really connect with. And I've found that over time. So my personal branding doesn't just extend to myself on my website, it's in my socials as well. It's keeping consistent with, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm getting business through that. I actually had someone call yesterday because they saw something on Instagram, and he's like, I want to work with someone that's doing something different.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
That's awesome. So with the branding, just going back to your point, which is so true, lawyers aren't necessarily really great at their personal branding. And what I find is that a lot of senior associates, and I know this through having a large team of senior associates in my own firm, they're not out there doing their own branding, even though they're encouraged to in my firm. It's just not their personality or archetype to be doing that. So when you were in the big firm in Melbourne, were you working on a personal brand at that stage, or was that not something that you started to think about until you kind of had launched and you kind of went, oh, I really need to deal with that?
Yeah, definitely it wasn't when I was there, because I was just so caught up with everything that was being thrown at me at the time. It was really once I sort of went out on my own, I guess when I started thinking about going out on my own through probably the last couple of months of being in private practice, I said to myself, this is how I would approach my business. This, from a marketing point of view, I knew that I needed to be out there promoting myself as the firm's biggest IP asset, let's face it, right?
Yeah.
To really show people who I am, what my skill set is, and how I can help them. I knew that was an effective way, because I reflect on what I'm like as a consumer when I'm buying into a product or service. I connect more when I see a really great personal brand versus, a company.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. But you've set it up so that the firm is also very personable. It feels very personable online, because you're also not afraid of getting your face out onto your website and things like that. Now, that, of course, doesn't mean, and I think a lot of people have this question or query, but I don't want the firm to be all about me, because I want to be able to release myself from the day-to-day grind of the firm, so to speak, or the file work, and I don't want clients to be caught up in wanting or needing to be me serving them. So in 2 years, you've already started employing a team, which is absolutely amazing. And congratulations, because that's the big step is to get in your own firm. The next big step is to take that leap into faith that you can afford to back yourself, that you're going to have that predictability of cash flow to pay for a team. So you've got 2 team members. So how do you deal at the moment with bringing clients in and then ensuring that you're not the one who's doing all the work?
Bringing clients in, the way we do it is we have calls to action on our website to have people leave an inquiry. At the moment, I'm taking the inquiry calls, but that won't be forever, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But for me, I guess at the moment, it's just important that we're, because my conversion rates are kind of sitting around the 60 to 70% mark. So that's kind of helpful to the business while it's still young, to bring in more clients.
And I did exactly the same thing. I used to do all the I stopped doing legal work, but I was still doing all the initial appointments, which is legal work because you're giving that initial advice and things like that. But then I would hand the file over. And then I've slowly worked my way out of doing that. Last year, I did 7 initial appointments out of 700.
Fantastic.
I know, like less than 1%, right? So, and that's, was always my goal to do that. And so this year I've done 0 so far, and it's now September. So it's possible you can get there, but for now, your business is still in an infancy stage. So it is important that you're generating as much work as possible, and you're the best person to do that. But you're not necessarily the best person to be in the trenches doing the file work. So how are you managing that?
Yeah, so it wasn't always smooth sailing, but I've got now a small, fantastic team of girls. I've got a couple of girls that work with me, and one of them is in admin, does all the admin kind of work, and then the other one does a lot of the day-to-day conveyancing work for the firm, and they each love what they're doing. It's the team member, Melita, that has the conveyancing work. She loves conveyancing. She's been doing it for 20 years, and between the 3 of us, it's 40 years of conveyancing experience. It's almost half a century.
Yes.
So that's really important from a branding perspective, because we're all about high quality. But certainly, but her being in that role, she loves it because that's what she loves to do. And then Susie in doing all the admin and billing as well within the business, she loves doing that as well. That's great.
So you've got people in right
people in the right positions.
Yeah.
It wasn't always like that. So at the beginning, I started taking the offshore approach because that was cost effective, but it wasn't probably the best decision for the business at the time, because I didn't really get any time back. I was spending more time training.
Yes.
And it was taking more time away from doing the work. And I was like, this is just not working. So I actually tried that twice.
And so, Melissa, with that, like I always say to people, because generally what new law firm owners do when they start building a team is they start with hiring juniors or offshoring or whatever it might be. And I always recommend that people don't do that. I recommend that they start with a senior person that can actually relieve them of time, and that they hire juniors when they're not the ones that are going to have to train them. And there's systems and processes in place at that stage to train them. Yeah. Because I used to fail miserably at hiring juniors, getting very frustrated. I'm not the most patient person in the world. And then you spend more time fixing stuff that it just becomes unprofitable, really.
Exactly.
And so you've now basically done that because you've hired a senior conveyancer who's been in her role for 20 years, you said. So that's been working very well for you.
Absolutely. And she's amazing at what she does. I completely trust the girls. We've got systems in place in terms of how we approach our work. And it's something that I'm building up on. And what's great is getting that time back. And you're right, getting senior people in is exactly what you should be doing at the beginning. Obviously, once you've started taking in clients and whatnot. But if you're going to make that first hiring decision, it would be senior, absolutely, because you want to get that time back to then focus on other things that you need to be doing to grow your business, like really driving the marketing, building your sales funnels, systemizing your practice. And that's something that now I've got that time back to do. So I'm focusing on doing heaps more checklists for different tasks that we have as part of the process. And, I'm even delegating to the girls as well to start recording videos on things that they're doing, all the tasks that they're doing. And we're creating a little database of, or conveyancing manual, if you like, around that. So it's been really good.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's so awesome. So what do you see your role is in the business right now?
In terms of the hats that I'm wearing at the moment, I'm seeing my role as more marketing in the business. So there's that. So marketing and really systemization are the two big ones.
And you're obviously as well a visionary, because the very beginning of the call, we talked about you said you had a really great vision for the firm, which is awesome, because I think that's where, that's another reason for your success, right? Because you've got a vision, so you've got a compass or a true north about, where you're heading in your firm. So how often are you sort of revisiting or thinking about what that vision looks like? And are your goals 1 year or 5 year or 10 year, or how does that sort of look?
I'm always thinking about my vision. My head can be in the clouds a little bit about that, and it's in a good way, because that's always something that I've got front of mind. So we've got a 5-year vision around becoming a national conveyancing law firm. That's awesome. Something that I'm still very much working towards.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, over the next 12 months, we're wanting to double our turnover within the business. And so that's why I'm really driving the marketing and the PR stuff that I'm doing at the moment. But not just being a visionary is definitely something that, yes, I'm in that role of being, and making sure that I'm communicating that to my my colleagues as well, because I want them to be part of it. I want them to feel like they're part of the journey of becoming a national practice. Inclusivity is one of the values that we have in the business. So that's really important to me. But also now it's about taking that leadership role within the business, making sure that my team are really happy, and making sure that the processes in the business are running really smoothly, and just trying to inspire my team as much as possible. And
that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. You are streets ahead for someone who's only been in business for 2 years. So it's really amazing. And I can completely visualize your vision and you being Australia wide with your firm. In terms of marketing, so we talk about marketing a lot in the Scalable Business Lounge, because for me, it's always, like if you've got clients coming in the door, you've got cash flow, you've got predictability. The more clients you can get in, the more you can grow, the more people you can employ and impact. So in terms of marketing, what sort of funnels or marketing activities are you doing?
Yeah, so it's a combination of a few things. So I think probably the 3 big ones are definitely connecting with my referral partners and making sure that they're all happy, and meeting up with them, finding more referral partners for the business that we want to work with, whether it's real estate agents or mortgage brokers or buyers advocates, etc. The other one is just being quite active on social media as well, because you kind of have to be in people's faces to make sure that that you still stay relevant. I think it's relevancy is the big one there, and just giving people lots of education. Now I'm actually planning some posts around really driving pain points. It's something that I'm learning from you, Carolee. It's just speaking to people's pain points a bit more, which I've written a whole bunch of stuff down about that. And now the other one would be PR, so media and PR. So another tip, like if you are a small business owner, one great free way of putting yourself out there that can actually yield some really good results, and get customers in your door is speaking to journalists, going on podcasts, just sharing as much about you and your business, and educating people about what you do and helping them as much as possible through through others is really good. I remember yesterday I did a recording with news.com.au on a property segment.
That's awesome.
So,
and that's with you reaching out, right? And creating those opportunities. So I think what people get mistaken about is that, and law firm owners, we make this mistake where we look at your success or my success or someone else and we're thinking, oh, they always get all these opportunities, or, oh, they always get to appear on someone's podcast, or they always, and the truth of the matter is that most of those opportunities, or your organic marketing and social media, all of those opportunities don't happen because people reach out to you. That's not how it happens, right? And it happens because you are taking opportunities, you are reaching out to them, you're pushing those boundaries and putting your hand up as a key person of influence in your niche, and making sure that you make those opportunities happen.
Exactly. So I've reached out to a few different journalists and associations. Also apply for awards. I find that that's really helpful. And I can see
right now on your website that you have you've been nominated, or you've been the next stage through for the Lawyers Weekly Australian Law Awards for Sole Practitioner of the Year.
Yeah, so we won that this year. We're really fortunate.
Oh, you won that this year. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're really, really proud of it. It was a really good moment when they called out the business, and I was like, wow. So that was this year, and we've now been fortunate, as of literally 2 days ago, we've been selected as finalists for the Women in Law Awards 2023 as well.
Oh, so awesome. That's
really cool.
But again, that doesn't happen by itself, right?
No, absolutely not.
You need to, fill in the application forms, do all the work that's required for all of that, which is, it's not a 2-minute job, but it's worth it because it puts you out there in the forefront and and in front of people as that expert.
Yeah, it's it all comes back around. Like, if you put yourself out there and connect with your community, educate your community about what you're doing, about your industry, whatever it is, that stuff is gold when it comes to applying for awards.
Yes.
You've got substance. You've got something that whoever's looking at that application will go, this person deserves an award. And so that's why all the personal branding and all the time and effort you put into your marketing is so important. Definitely applying for awards. And, if you're approaching journalists, for example, write a story. Say, hey, I think this is really relevant today in my industry. Here's a story. What do you think? Would you be willing to run that? You'd be surprised.
Yeah. And the thing I think that we forget is that journalists, they're looking for articles, and they're looking for articles that they don't have to put a lot of work into. So if you've done the hard yards and done the work, and essentially that's what a PR agency does for you, right? They write the articles, submit them to journalists, so that and that's how a lot of articles that we read come about. So I think that what you're doing is amazing, and how you're putting yourself out there is incredible. In terms of getting started with that, how did you go with the confidence piece? Because I talk to a lot of lawyers and they just don't know where to start, and they have that whole imposter syndrome, and it can be hard to get started and build that confidence.
Yeah. As lawyers, we are overthinkers. We're overanalyzers. It's really good for your day-to-day work, but it's really bad for marketing.
Yes.
Because you sit in the same spot and you're like, nothing's happening.
Yes.
So you've got to get out of that headspace, and you've got to get out of that headspace. I had, an epiphany months ago, and I was like, what's going on? And you know what I did? I watched Maverick, the second installment of Top Gun. I was watching that, and there was this thing that he says. He goes, "Don't think, just do." And I was like, I need to start doing that for myself, for my business. So you literally just have to do it. Don't sit there thinking, oh, is this person going to like what I'm going to put out, or I'm not going to be any good compared to this person, this competitor, that competitor. Just stay in your lane.
Yes.
If you've got a message for people, if you understand your clients' pain points and you're there to solve them and you genuinely want to help people, put yourself out there.
Yeah. 100%.
You're doing a disservice to yourself and to them by doing nothing.
100%.
So do everyone out there a service and just put yourself out there and keep consistent, be persistent and consistent with it. You kind of have to do that if you're going to be, being on the socials and things like that. And you'll be certain to get customers along the way.
That's awesome. Well, it's been really great chatting with you, and I'm sure that everyone listening will agree that they've learned so much from you today, and are just inspired. You're really inspiring the way that you've just, run with your firm and put yourself out there, and you're creating, so much success for yourself, and you have this amazing vision. And so, thanks for sharing your story and coming on the podcast. So how can people find you if they want to look at your website, find you on, connect with you on socials, things like that?
Yeah, so on the socials, it's just Conveyed AU for the business. And for myself, it's just Melissa Barlas. I think on Facebook, it's Melissa Barlas Lawyer, but on Instagram, it should just be melissa.barlas. So just have a look at that. LinkedIn, again, it's Conveyed AU. And you can just look up Melissa Barlas and that should pop up, and you're welcome to follow me on those socials. Website www.conveyed.com.au. You can leave an inquiry there. Happy to have a chat to anyone that's, wanting to connect, and if I can share my experience and that can help anyone else in any way, I'd be more than happy to have a chat.
That's awesome. Well, we'll also put all of those links on our show notes as well. So if you go over to scalablelaw.com, you'll see Melissa's links and everything over there as well. So thank you so much for coming on board to the podcast. And I would love to catch up with you in a year or so to see where you are up to, because I'm sure that it's going to be a completely different story from where it is right now.
Thank you, Carolee. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Scalable Law Podcast, brought to you by the Scalable Business Lounge. If you would love to know how you can get more clients without relying on referrals, head over to scalablelaw.com to watch my free masterclass. Until next time, you have got this.